I'm Rachel Belle, and this is Your Last Meal, the show where celebrities share stories about the foods they love most, and we dig into the history, culture, or science of those meals with experts from around the world. Today on the program, Padma Lakshmi, Emmy-nominated TV host and producer, best-selling author, and activist. Padma hosted Top Chef for 17 years. She's the host and executive producer of Taste the Nation, and her brand new show that she created from the ground up premiered last week on CBS. It's called America's Culinary Cup. After leaving Top Chef, Padma vowed to never host another culinary competition show ever again. She tells me why she changed her mind. And we talk a lot about eating in bed. Something I love to do, something Padma loves to do, and something you, the listeners, have very strong feelings about. Then New York Times food reporter Priya Krishna joins the show to talk about how American restaurants are being deeply affected by ICE. That's coming up later in the show, but right now, let's hop into my conversation with Padma Lakshmi. Hello.
Hello.
I was going to ask you if you were in bed, but I can really tell that you're not.
You must have watched The Daily Show.
No, I didn't. I heard you on a podcast where I think you were in bed with the host.
Liz Plank, yeah.
Yeah. And you were saying that they would like put different pillows on your bed to make it look like you were maybe on the couch.
But I wasn't. Yeah. Definitely.
Well, thank you for getting out of bed for me. You didn't have to.
My pleasure.
It's nice to meet you. We have a couple funny little connections. The woman who photographed my book photographed your last book. So we have Charity in common.
Oh, Charity. She's lovely.
Yeah.
I'm so in love with Charity. She's wonderful.
Yes. And then in 2018, you read my category at the James Beard Awards and you read my name. And I was so excited because I'm such a big fan of yours.
Oh, yay. Congratulations.
Thank you. I didn't win, but I was a nominee.
That's okay. A nominee is a big deal still, right?
Okay. We have to get back to your bed now.
Okay.
So you eat in bed, which I love because I eat in bed and people give me for this. I don't do it all the time. It's special for me to eat in bed. So I'm curious, what is your setup? And are there certain things that you won't eat in bed, or is anything fair game?
I mean, anything's fair game. I try not to, like, my daughter also wants to eat in bed all the time, but it's hard to eat things with a knife and fork in bed. So that's a little unwieldy unless you have like a breakfast tray, with legs that literally you're lying down. But that makes me feel like I'm sick. So what we do is we generally put a blanket down or a towel down. And the bed picnic started because sometimes on Sunday, I would arrive to Sunday, which was my only day where I really had off, like so tired. And so I would go to the gym, come back, have a shower, put on some clean, crisp pajamas, make a bunch, like a plate of little sandwiches, like a smorgasbord of different kinds of sandwich, and a big pot of tea, and then put that on a tray and set it on my bed and just while away the time spreading the New York Times, the hard copy, the print copy, everywhere. And, my stack of magazines that I didn't get a chance to read, and spend a beautiful, cozy Sunday in. Like that's
luxurious.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I think it's because of the way I grew up. When I lived with my grandparents in India, we couldn't fit everyone that lived in the house on the dinner table. So we would eat in sections or batches. And then often the kids would eat on the floor. There'd be a semicircle. My grandma would have a big bowl of rice and whatever, and we'd have little bowls, and she would go and put a little bit each time, because we feed kids with our fingers, because we eat with our fingers. So I think that's the origins of it. And then, my daughter and I, it's just her and I. I grew up in way more humble circumstances than how I'm living now. And so sometimes I think like, oh, am I going to come and eat at my dining table? Or, I do have a kitchen table where she and I eat. But most of the time, it's just cozier. So we live upstairs, in her bedroom and my bedroom, rather than coming down to, where the rest of the house is. And so, I think I'm paying the price for that now, because she never wants to sit at the dinner table. And she's always like, oh, I already foraged for dinner. Like, I'm like, what? We're having to sit down and have a meal like a family. She was, sit with you or, whatever. But most of the time we're eating food out of bowls, or we're eating like soup and a grilled cheese. And so it just became cozier to do it that way. But, I don't think I've instilled good habits in my daughter, unfortunately.
Do you keep things in your bedside table so you don't have to run down like salt and pepper or extra napkin?
No, but well, it's not in my bedside table. It's in a little cupboard where I've stashed a dorm fridge
Oh, nice.
where, I have bottles of water and I have bars of dark chocolate because I don't want to go down at night. That's my secret midnight snack. Or, the last thing I eat is probably like a half a bar or a whole bar sometimes of dark chocolate with sea salt. And I even have protein shakes in there because if I go to the gym in the morning, I don't like to eat a big breakfast. So I just grab one of those shakes and then we refill them every week.
You are a midnight snack person, both you and your daughter. What are some favorite midnight snacks besides the chocolate bar?
Nachos. Microwave nachos, which is not the best way to make nachos. You should really make nachos in the oven. But we make microwave nachos or we do pomegranate toast. Now we're ending the season for pomegranates. But from September to February, we always have peanut butter on sourdough bread and pomegranate seeds on top. And it's delicious. And in the summer, we do a version of that with blackberries. It's so much juicier and fresher and tartar than just putting jam.
Yeah.
Try it. And so we just toast sour bread and do that. Or we will make, like cheese and crackers with chili jam or red onion chutney. And we'll again make a tray. My snack tray game is really good. We pride ourselves. Like we challenge ourselves of like, please, can you go make me a snack tray? And it'll be dominantly savory with sweet accents like, dried Angelino plums or dried sour cherries or something. Or it will be like a sweet focused one with, even little mini pinch bowls of different cereal with milk and then cookies and whatever.
Oh, that's so fun to have tiny cereal bowls. I love that idea. I do this when I hike. I bring like a little wooden board and I set everything up because there's something about it looking pretty that just makes it more fun and novel. And I really do think it tastes better. I could bring the same cheese and crackers and apple, but if I put it on that little board, I just am more present, I think, and it's just more fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the ritual of it. You feel civilized.
Yeah.
That makes it better.
You mentioned earlier that you live with your grandparents. So you moved to New York when you were 4, but you had spent 2 years with your grandparents before you moved to New York to be with your mom. I read that you also spent your summers with your grandparents. And a quote that you had said is that your grandma used cooking as a way to teach about life. How did she do that?
Well, she was a very busy woman and she had 8 to 10 mouths to feed with a 2-burner stove. And she didn't really get a fridge until her 30s. So she never understood how to use it. She would kind of use it just to keep chilled water. There's a lot of kids and it's India. So she was cooking constantly. So she just lived in the kitchen all day, and I hung out with her and all the big decisions, all the gossip, all of that were discussed and exchanged in the kitchen, on that kitchen floor. So we'd be shelling beans, or shelling peas, breaking the ends off beans, peeling potatoes, or, stuff like that. And so, if she was making a stew in order to teach me, she would say, everything has a right moment in cooking and also in life. If you add the potatoes too late, they won't have time to cook. If you add the coriander leaves too early, the flavor will cook out. So everything has a proper moment. And so it matters in what order you throw things in the pot. And it matters in what order you do things in life. I was always wanting to grow up fast. To be like, not yet. And I think that's kind of stayed with me. And I do that with my daughter too, and I say, yes, there will be a moment. And I look forward to enjoying that moment with you when you're in your 20s, but not as a teenager, because you don't want to flame out too early. I make some example of it that is important to her or, is germane to her life. So I think those lessons have stayed with me and do guide my hand. I feel that my grandmother had a very, very big influence on my life. And so did my grandfather. Krishna is named after my grandfather. Yeah. People name children of both genders that, but it's traditionally been a male name, Krishna.
What is a favorite thing that your grandma made that is always with you? Sentimental, nostalgic?
What did she always make? Well, I used her template for making stir-fried vegetable curries. And it's just a simple recipe of a tadka, So you would fry things like 2 kinds of lentils and mustard seeds and curry leaves and some asafoetida and cumin. So you would fry that, and to that, and sometimes grated coconut, but to that you could add any vegetables. It could be sweet potato and lima beans. It could be beans, like green beans. It could be cabbage. So that's a template recipe that has a lot of applications, not just vegetables, but also for starches. Like there's a coconut rice recipe in Padma's All-American, and that is straight from my grandmother.
Are you teaching your daughter to cook? I see you guys cooking on Instagram, but is she interested in actually learning recipes or cooking?
She's not so into cooking. I think for her, it's loaded. She cooks with her father sometimes, but I think also, I'm testing recipes in the kitchen. I'm making her eat all kinds of weird things. So sometimes she just wants Taco Bell,
Yeah.
And I want her to be a teenager. It breaks my heart. I'm like, here are these Peruvian tamales and you're eating Taco Bell. And she's like, Mom, just leave me alone.
Well, the microwave nachos are making up for it. That's how she's getting to be a teenager.
Yeah.
Exactly. Late night. I wanted to feature your stories about eating in bed or stowing snacks in your bedside table. So I put a call out on Instagram for folks to record their stories. And all that I got in return were written messages from people who were disgusted by the concept of eating in bed. Listen, I only do this once or twice a year, but when I've had a long week and I'm exhausted, there is nothing better than getting into bed at 6 p.m., putting down a big towel, and eating a big bowl of mac and cheese, followed by a bowl of ice cream, while watching shows on my laptop under the covers in bed. I have a feeling I won't be able to convince the haters. Okay, after the break, how the landscape of America's vibrant, diverse restaurant scene is in danger of changing because of ice. In the third act of the show, Padma's going to talk about her brand new TV series, America's Culinary Cup. So I want to talk about the other show that you created that debuted in 2020, and then the second season was in 2023, called Taste the Nation. And then, of course, in November, you released the cookbook version of the show, Padma's All-American. I want you to talk about the message of both the show and the book in relation to what we are dealing with in our country right now with immigration, with ICE, with people saying Bad Bunny's halftime show was un-American. I feel like you were a little bit ahead with what you were creating.
The problem was there 10 years ago with Trump's first term. It just wasn't this acute. I don't think any of us would have predicted that there would be Gestapo-like rounding up of random people in the street, the killing of American citizens and stuff. It's harrowing what's going on, and it's hard to know what to do or what to say. The ethos of Taste the Nation was to show rather than tell what my opinions on this very integral issue to this country of immigration. You cannot parse out immigration from the evolution of our economic system or our culture. And so I had been working with the ACLU for a good decade. That was great. And I learned so much. I traveled to the southern border and experienced what people do when they cross the border on foot. I've met a lot of immigrants. I've looked at a lot of redacted cases that are up at the Supreme Court. It was always me either writing an op-ed, which is great, or going to an ACLU rally. And I'm really preaching to the choir. If you show up to an ACLU rally, like, you know what I mean? So I kind of wanted to get to people where they were in their homes and sort of entertain them, sort of give them a spoonful of sugar with the medicine. Because if you look on the surface, Taste the Nation is a travel food show, of which at the time there were many, but it's certainly not Stanley Tucci's show, or, it wasn't lifestyle, right? It was about something much more deeper, which is who our neighbors are and who gets to call themselves American, and what are all these origin stories of all the different Americans that make up our wonderful, if challenged, country right now. And so I just thought, if you're not white Anglo-Saxon in this country, you often get your story told by others outside your community. You don't get to tell your own story. And so Taste the Nation was also about using my platform to hand the mic to people so they could tell their own stories as they see fit. And I'm of the opinion that everyone has an interesting story. You just have to be willing to listen. And when you travel by road, city by city, avenue by avenue, you really get to know this country. And it actually gave me hope, even though hope is something that's ephemeral and hard to have at times. I think we will come out of this period. I don't think we will come out unscathed or unchanged. Truthfully, a capitalist society like ours would not be able to function without immigrant labor. So never mind the ethics or politics or even the morality of what's going on right now. I just feel it's really short-sighted. I think it's very dumb.
According to the American Immigration Council, 1/5 of food service workers are immigrants. And in some states like California, Texas, and New York, it's nearly a third. So the restaurant industry is definitely being impacted by ICE.
In the past year, as ICE raids have started, workers are afraid to go to work because they're worried that they will be targeted, because it is common knowledge that the restaurant industry is a hub for immigrant workers.
That's New York Times food reporter Priya Krishna.
But also what we're finding is that ICE is sort of having this chilling effect in many communities, particularly immigrant-owned neighborhoods, where people just don't really want to go out to eat. They are worried themselves about being taken. They're worried that they will witness someone being taken by ICE. And it's just sort of created this culture of fear that has affected an industry that sort of was already teetering on the edge.
A couple weeks ago, Priya published a piece in the Times titled, "Worse Than the Pandemic. Restaurants Say ICE Presence Imperils Business."
Something I heard from a lot of restaurateurs is that, unlike the pandemic, in which everyone was sort of unified against this sort of common threat, that people feel more divided than ever. I spoke to a server who said while she's serving customers, she'll be told ICE is going to come get you.
It's so interesting how people still want to eat in the restaurants and they want to enjoy this food from other countries, but then they hate the people who are making the food and who own the restaurants.
That dissonance is something that I come across time and time again in my reporting. People love tacos, they love kebabs, but they don't support immigration.
So this article's in the New York Times, but you really covered restaurants across the country. Let's talk about Chicago. There's a place called Los Comales.
So Chicago has this really amazing neighborhood that's basically known as the Mexico of the Midwest. But that neighborhood has been so heavily targeted by ICE that these streets that were once really bustling and busy and full of tourists coming from all across the Midwest to eat delicious Mexican food are now basically empty. And at Los Comales, which has a bunch of locations across Chicago, the booths are empty. The staff has been cut because they have to work far fewer hours, and there's just no foot traffic.
The staff has been cut significantly. It says from 120 employees to 28 employees.
Yeah.
That Chicago neighborhood is called Little Village, and Priya reports that a spokeswoman for the Neighborhood Chamber of Commerce estimated that local business sales have fallen 50 to 70% since 2024. In Minneapolis, sales are down 40% at Manny's Tortas, and 4 of his 7 employees have stopped coming to work.
I think Minneapolis has gotten a lot of attention and, for very good reason. Trump sent a wave of troops there, and the pictures that we're seeing on the streets really makes the city look like a war zone. And that is how it was described by many of the people we interviewed. But I do think it's important to note that these raids are happening across the country in major cities everywhere. It is not just happening in Minneapolis. So I felt it was important in the story to show just the sheer breadth of these raids and the ways in which it's impacting restaurants all across the country, not just in Minneapolis.
In Salt Lake City, there's a place called Annie's Cafe. What have they been experiencing?
At Annie's Cafe, the owner told me that there has been a person calling them, pretending to be or claiming to be an ICE agent and threatening to take all of their Latino employees and smash their windows. And they have been calling the police, trying to get them to do something about it. But the police is saying there's not much that they can do. So they just sort of have to live with that harassment and the ways in which it is worrying both customers and employees.
It's so important right now for people to know their rights and to know the laws. Can you talk about what restaurants are doing to make sure that their employees know these things?
So they're doing a lot of know your rights trainings. That has become a pretty standard part of pre-service meetings. A lot of restaurateurs I spoke to said they now have their staff wear whistles. And so if they see ICE, they will blow a whistle. Technically, ICE needs a warrant to enter a private space. So a lot of restaurants are marking certain areas of their restaurant as private spaces where explicitly, ICE cannot enter this space. In front of a lot of restaurants, you'll see signs that say ICE is not welcome here, that, have phone numbers for people to call in case they see ICE.
And also the way that people are getting to work is different. I was struck by this, like the transportation changes that are happening.
Yeah, a lot of people who have been taken by ICE are taken at traffic stops, are taken when they're driving somewhere. I spoke to restaurateurs who told me that their staff is now biking to work. Another person told me that they are driving their staff to work so that there is no risk of their staff being pulled over.
What kind of a toll do you think this is going to take overall on the restaurant industry in our country? Like, this is just starting to happen and it could continue to happen. Like, how is this going to change the landscape of restaurants?
It's hard to say, but right now it looks pretty dire. I think we're going to see a lot of restaurants closing. I think we are going to see a lot of neighborhoods that were once hubs for immigrants and particular types of cuisine that will be far less busy and bustling. I think we're going to see a lot of closures there. I think ultimately what this means is like a less diverse, less interesting restaurant scene. One of my sources worried that all we're going to be left with is chains. And that was a big worry during the pandemic. And I think it should be a worry now.
And it's so important to point out that these people who are scared to come to work are legal.
Yeah. Many of them are here legally, or they're in the process of going through the legal channels to becoming citizens. They're asylum seekers. Some of the people who have been taken by ICE are citizens themselves.
Right.
A lot of people are walking around with their paperwork. I mean, anecdotally, gosh, this is so my parents have been citizens for a long time and they carry their passports and passport cards now when they go out. So if they get pulled over, they have immediate proof that they're citizens. And so I think it's really made a lot of people who have felt some measure of security in this country feel like they're no longer safe. More than anything, there's just a lot of confusion and fear.
Are you worried about your parents?
Yes, they live in Texas. Yeah, I am. But I don't know. It's just, we are a very privileged family that's been in this country for a long time. And if my parents are worried, it's hard to imagine the scale of worry that others might feel. And I got to hear it firsthand. So that's also why this story felt really important to share. The thing about news cycles is that the ice cycle finishes and now we're in a different news cycle, but the raids are continuing. So even though you're not reading about it in the news, it is happening.
Just like during the pandemic, Priya says the best way to help is to eat at restaurants. Get takeout, buy a gift card at both restaurants that are immigrant facing or really any restaurant, because we all know who is working in the back of house. After the break, Padma tells me why there are no corners or rectangular spaces on the set of America's Culinary Cup, and she shares her last meal. You decided to leave Top Chef after hosting and executive producing for 17 years. And I had read around that time that you weren't interested in hosting another competition show again. Yet, here we are with your show, America's Culinary Cup. So can you just start with why you decided to leave Top Chef and then what brought you to starting this new show?
You know, I think when you're doing a job for a long time, the same job, you want to be challenged. You know, you want to be stimulated. And I was just ready to do something a bit more challenging and stimulating. I didn't think I would ever come back to the genre because I was really tired of eating all that copious amount of food. And, you know, it's hard. It's physically taxing. But then when I left Top Chef, I really needed that time to finish my book, Padma's All-American. And so I focused on that. And then literally CBS approached me about a food show. And I just said, look, I don't want to do a competition show. And they were like, that's all we want from you. And I was like, well, I'm not going to do a competition show unless you give me $1 million as the grand prize. And they're like, okay. So that was good.
They called your bluff.
They did call my bluff, yes. And then Amy Reisenbach, who's the head of CBS, is very smart. And she's also really funny and kind. And she said, look, I get it. You were on that show for a long time. And I'm sure there are a lot of opinions you have about what you would do and what you wouldn't do. So what if you could create a show that is exactly like you've always envisioned it? What if you could call the shots? What if you could create something that was exactly like you wanted? And I said, oh, okay, let's try. And to be fair to CBS, they were very supportive. I mean, they helped me get everything that I wanted to make the show in the way I wanted. Now, I don't know if it'll be successful. I really hope it will be. You know, it's the biggest swing professionally of my career. We had 350 people on set. No joke. You know, when I created Taste the Nation as well, but when I was on that show, we had a lot of post-production people and stuff too, but on the show in production, it was like 15 people, you know, and Top Chef around 150 crew members. So this is definitely a much bigger project. It's a much bigger network. And so it has to be a bigger, more mass appeal show. And that is how I designed it. And also, you know, Top Chef was created over 20 years ago. I wanted to do just something that was different. Of course, it's still cooking. It's still a competition. It's still chefs, right? You can't get out of that. It's a food competition show.
Yeah.
But how can you make a modern version of food game show that feels new and fresh?
How is it different from other culinary competition shows?
Well, there's a couple. The prize money, it's the biggest prize in history. The only thing that comes close is $500,000 for a Netflix show I can't remember the name of. And then the other big difference is that we don't have a format. It's not going to be like a mystery box of ingredients that you have to make something out of. It's not quick fire and then main challenge. It's none of that. It's ruled by a body of principles or 10 culinary commandments that we think are essential skills that every world-renowned chef should master. Vegetable cookery, mastering the art of meat, technology and innovation. They don't live together. We treat them like human beings. We don't sequester them. You know, we don't take away their phones. We let them see their families if their families want to come visit them. They're not living on top of each other in a house like college students. Our attitude is these are professionals, these are captains of their industry, and they're human beings. Yeah. We don't want to contort them or constrain them to be under physical or mental duress. We want them to be at their best. And so that extends onto the kitchen and the set as well. So we don't sequester their phones. We don't tell them they can't have the internet. Or they're just normal citizens like all of us before they come to work. When they come to work, they can't bring any materials with them. So they can't, have formulas in a book or anything like that. We do take away their phones once they enter the kitchen. If you would stay up all night memorizing baking ratios, go at it, but hopefully, if you at this juncture, chefs in this country, well, anywhere in the world have had a really hard time with COVID and the economy not bouncing back and food prices going up and agriculture suffering, because of the lack of immigrant workforce, because they're scared to come to work. So this is in a way my love letter to these chefs and saying, you know what, we're not going to sabotage you. We're not going to put obstacles in your way. We are going to give you everything you need. All the toys, all the equipment, all the best ingredients, your own space to cook in with 6 restaurant grade burners, your own oven. Do you think you're the best? Show us you're the best, because we're not going to give you any excuse to say, well, I couldn't do it because I didn't have this.
This show has Padma's stamp all over it. She was involved with every little detail.
It's in the decor of the set. It's in the design of the set. It's very purposeful. Like, we don't have bright colors. There's not a rectilinear floor plan. It's oval. It's actually like an amphitheater. There are no corners in that kitchen. There's been a lot of research that shows that people are more focused and more creative in spaces that are non-rectilinear, that don't have straight lines and corners. That's why they always encourage writers to get out in nature and take a walk, or, just so you can see rounder shapes or a variety of shapes. So very high end, but Spartan space, almost Japanese in its minimalism, so that they could just have room to think and conceptualize their dishes. That's purposeful. I don't think it's very modern to have all these tchotchkes on the wall, or, because that's not what you would see at Le Bernardin. That's not what you would see at French Laundry.
We have reached the end of the show, so there is only one question left to ask. Let's get to your last meal. What would you choose to have for your last meal?
That question, as you can imagine, I do get from time to time. Yes. It changes. Right now, I think it would probably be Thai green curry, either chicken or tofu with brown rice that I get from Land Larb, which is my takeout place downtown in New York. So I really love that. It's yummy and spicy and comforting. But at different times, it's just been a very humble bowl of lentils and rice cooked by me or my mom, or fried chicken. So those are the things. Maybe I could have all of those things on a big table.
You are welcome to for this experiment that we're doing with this podcast. You can have it all. Is there any meaning behind that green curry, or is that just something delicious?
It's just something really delicious. I think I am particularly taken with Thai food because it has a lot of the same ingredients that we use in South Indian food: ginger, chilies, coconut milk, lots of herbs. So the climate in South India is very similar to the climate in Thailand. They're both very tropical, warm climates. So the same things grow in both locations. So maybe that's why I just love the food.
And that was Padma Lakshmi's last meal. I'm going to let you go. You have something else to get to, but thank you so much. It was really nice to meet you.
Thank you. It was lovely to talk to you.
Cheers. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
It was a little hard to hear the name of Padma's neighborhood Thai restaurant. It's called Land Larb in Manhattan's Soho neighborhood, and it specializes in northern Thai food. If you've ever wanted to eat at a restaurant or bar or pickle shop that was talked about on Your Last Meal, I made a Google map that has all of them pinned. 9.5 years worth of places. And because I love you, I made a note on each one so you know whose last meal it is or what episode it was mentioned in. Find a link to the map in the show notes or Google Your Last Meal Restaurant Crawl Map. Padma Lakshmi's new show is called America's Culinary Cup. It airs Wednesday nights on CBS. Pick up her newest cookbook, Padma's All-American, at your favorite local bookstore. Thanks to New York Times food reporter Priya Krishna. Priya has also written cookbooks, including the New York Times bestseller, Indianish. I interviewed you so long ago when your first book came out, the one about dorm room food.
Oh my God. Wow. That
Yes.
is like, no one remembers that book. So that is amazing. And thank you for remembering it.
You're welcome. What year was that?
It was 2014. I had literally just graduated from college.
That's right. I know. And then I remember when I saw you, like your career moving, I'm like, oh my God, it's that lady that I interviewed. So I feel like I've been proud of you watching your career.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Your Last Meal is a product of Seattle's Cascade PBS. Go to cascadepbs.org to become a member. And for as little as $7 a month, you'll get on-demand access to all PBS programming, including dozens and dozens of food shows. Everything from Julia Child to Pati Yinich to my show, The Nosh. Speaking of, we are currently editing season 3 of The Nosh, and 8 new episodes are coming soon, premiering in May. You can watch the first 2 seasons at cascadepbs.org, on YouTube, or in the Alaska Air in-flight entertainment app. I hear the show pairs beautifully with ginger ale and free pretzels. This episode was produced by me and senior producer Sarah Bernard, who also mixed and mastered it. Original theme music by Prom Queen. I'm Rachel Belle, and this is Your Last Meal. Just before we started the interview, Padma's little dog strolled in and hopped up on her lap.
Do you want to come? Come on. 1 second.
Is this
Come on,
Davina?
hurry up. Yeah.
Hello. Oh, you have matching shirts on.
Kind of.
Cute.
Oh, you just got back from the beauty parlor. I love Wednesdays. She smells great on
What does
Wednesday.
she smell like?
Oh, hope and rainbows.
Oh.
She goes to the beauty parlor much more than I do.
Well, she needs it more than you. You don't smell as bad as her.
No.
No.
Luckily.
Yeah. She go every week?
She does, yeah.
Wow, amazing.
Hey.
Hey, sorry I'm late to my own meeting.
No, all good.
Thank you for doing this. I appreciate it.
Sure. Yeah.